Hello, everybody, and thank you very much for being here today with me in another session of Ask the Expert. And today I have a surprise for you, among others, because I decided to invite an expert on today's subject, which is, of course, the French record collection that we have released just a few hours ago, 24 hours, that was more or less, if I am not mistaking on my time. My name is Daniel Horowitz, but my name is not important today because today we have with us Mike Mansfield, and he works at MyHeritage as the Director of Content Operations. Mike has been active in the genealogy world almost as long as me. According to this, is 20 years. I'm pretty sure he's older than that, and he has been dedicated to genealogy all his life, more or less. He has presented at numerous genealogy conferences and symposiums in the United States, England, Scandinavia, and Australia, holds a bachelor degree in computer science from BYU, and a Master of Science in Library and Information Science from Syracuse University. Today, I'm still in Israel, but he is live and direct with us from Utah. Hello, Mike, and welcome.
How are you doing, Daniel? Thank you for the introduction.
Well, it's really a pleasure to have you here. And we are all very eager to hear all about these new collections that we just released from France. So if you want to just take it with you, and we will all learn.
How does that look, Daniel?
That looks perfect.
Great. Well, it's my pleasure to be here with you. We're having sort of our first wintry day here in Utah. We're expecting maybe some snow, and our first hard freeze was last night, but we're not here to talk about the weather. We're here to talk about something much more exciting, and that is one of our biggest releases ever on MyHeritage, and it's all French. And let's dive in. So as Daniel mentioned, as of just about 18 hours ago, so late afternoon, our time here in the US, on Wednesday, yesterday was Wednesday, I think. Yeah, we released these wonderful collections from our recent acquisition and partnership with the French company Filae. So this is phase one of this effort to bring as much content as we're able to from Filae to MyHeritage. And the first 5 collections that were released yesterday are a collection of vital records or church baptisms and civil births, marriages, both civil and church, and then church burials and civil deaths. And I give you the counts there in parentheses of the number of records. And then 2 French census collections, one from 1906 and one from 1872. So in total, this is about 463 million new French records. I think in our history, this would rank number 3 as the largest single day release ever. So it's a wonderful occasion for us, and we're super happy to have reached this important milestone in this project. And I say phase one because there's going to be many other releases from the Filae catalog coming to MyHeritage in the coming months. So definitely keep an eye on both this forum here on Facebook as well as the blog, and I'll give a link to the blog in just a minute or two. So yeah, 463 million new records, almost 500 million. And this is additive to some work that we'd already started in France. So if you've looked at MyHeritage in the last year or two, you would have noticed that we have released a very nice collection of civil vital records from the Department of Nord. So the Department of Nord is the northernmost department, and I think it has boundaries with the Netherlands and perhaps part of Belgium. And that was our first project. And we had a long ways to go, as you can see in France. We've just kind of really started to touch the huge iceberg or mountain that is French content. And in addition, we've had for about 2 years a very nice French death index that goes up to very recent deaths, and a military index covering mostly conflicts from World War I through about the start of the Vietnam conflict for the French. So the release yesterday was almost a 10x, a tenfold increase in the amount of French records. And all of the records that I referred to on the first slide also have 99% of them have an associated digital image that you'll find in the collection. And so we always love that as genealogists when we can see the index record, but then also go look at the original document and find additional details that are there. And you'll certainly want to do that. I'm just going to spend just a moment and talk about some of the geography and political hierarchies in France, because we'll need to understand these as we think about French records. So France is divided up into 18 regions, depending how you want to count it. So in Europe, on the continental part of Europe, there's what they call metropolitan France, and that includes the island of Corsica. And then they have 5 overseas regions, or what are also 5 overseas departments. So these regions they have some administrative capabilities, but generally the level that we're looking at as genealogists are at the department level, which is one level down from these. So there are 96 total departments in continental France or metropolitan France, and 5 overseas departments. These departments were created actually at the beginning of the French Revolution, starting in, I think they were officially created in 1791. And the number of communes that I'm showing here, 36,000 some odd communes, this number changes all the time. Year to year, they're adding new communes, or communes are being merged and subsumed by other communes. But communes are the lowest level that we're usually concerned about in genealogy. If you've done English research, you would equate this in your mind to a parish. Same sort of notion happens in Scandinavia. These lower level jurisdictions that are pretty small communities, usually with a church or a town hall, these types of things. So when they did this new geographic breakdown at the start of the French Revolution, there were some 41,000 communes that were created, and so there's just a fewer than that today. So let's talk just a moment about church vitals. I could spend probably a whole hour talking about the various religious reforms and edicts that went into the procedure of the priests collecting church vitals. I won't go into all these, but just understand that there was a kind of an evolution, and we see this in other countries as well, starting in the 1500s and into the 1600s, as the various church, in this case it certainly was the Catholic Church, was the main driver behind these reforms to help their priests record. Again, they were primarily interested in the infant baptisms or christenings, the marriages, and the burials. And so there's really not a specific date that you can point at in France and say the church records start here. It's really sporadic. It depends on the region. It depends on some of these practices. French vitals, or civil vitals, vitals collected by the government, do have a very definite start date. And the start date is actually 1792, because a year prior, in the constitution that was established there at the beginning of the French Revolution, it's actually in their constitution that the French government will establish this process of collecting civil vital records. And so France, in my experience, was one of the leaders in the world in having this process of collecting vital records. The English only started it in 1837. And here in the United States, it was left to the states, and many of the states didn't get around to it till even the early 1900s. So we have a wonderful tradition here in France of civil vital records, very robustly kept up to 1792. From 1792 forward, and then church records prior to 1792. So in the collections that I referenced at the top of the conversation here, we have three main vital records collections. Again, sort of a births and baptisms, marriages, and the deaths and burials. And I've given you some coverage maps here of the church records and the civil records that are included in both of these. And so on the left here, you can see that our coverage of the pre-1792, or again, the church records or parish records, is somewhat still scattered. And then you see that the vital records on the right-hand side is much more robust. In fact, we have all the departments really except one of the 96 departments there in metropolitan France. The records here in France are kept primarily at the departments. Each one of these departments has an archive, and the records, both these church records, the civil vital records, as well as the census records, are maintained and housed at the departmental archives. So this is a bit different than what we see, say, in the United States or Canada or England and Wales, where there's a national archive that genealogy institutions or companies like MyHeritage can go to and coordinate with. So here in France, we're working with many, many different archives scattered really across all of France in each and every capital of each department. We're certainly hoping to continue to increase our coverage into the earlier records from the church records prior to 1792. Talk just a moment about some census records. So from 1836 until 1936, a national census was kept in France every 5 years, with 2 exceptions, and I'll talk about that. But I want to add a fun word to your Scrabble vocabulary, and it's quinquennial, if I'm saying it right. This is the notion of something happening every 5 years or lasting every 5 years. So we'll use sort of the second definition there. So in France, they have a quinquennial census, and it's great to have every 5 years, right? Don't we wish that we had that here in the United States or Canada or England, where we only get them every 10 years? So what happened in 1871 and 1916? Well, in 1871, the French had just conducted a major war against the German Federation and the Prussians, called the Franco-Prussian War, where the French were soundly defeated. In fact, it caused the collapse of what was known as the Second French Empire. That conflict actually wrapped up in January of 1871. And these censuses at this time were being conducted in May. So they had time to get it done, but the government was in just a huge state of disarray that they delayed the 1871 census 1 year and took it in 1872. And then 1916 was not conducted due to the conflict there with Germany in World War I. As you would imagine, the government had their hands full with that. And there was no substitute or subsequent census to fill that one in. So we do have a gap in 1916 in the French census records. So the 2 census collections that we released yesterday, the first one is 1872, and 67 of the 96 departments there in metropolitan France are currently included. And so this is an example where we're continuing to watch and work with departments as they digitize these records and bring them available to add more coverage to the census. In the collection on MyHeritage, if you look at what we call the extended description, which is a body of text below the main description, you'll see a little arrow bubble you can click on when you're looking at this in MyHeritage. I've included a list of all of these 67 departments that are included. So you can certainly use that as a reference. So this is about what, say, 65% of the departments are currently included in 1872. In 1906, this map has a little complication because there's actually 3 different census here that we're trying to represent. The first one, the darkest blue, is 1906, and that's the other census collection we released yesterday, and it has 36 departments. And then 1901 and 1911, those are other collections that you'll see coming forth here in the next probably few weeks on both of those. 1901, I think we have 8 departments in that set, and 1911 currently is only 1 department, the Department of Courzy, if I'm saying it correctly. And again, just like I did in 1872, I included the list of the departments that are included in this census in its extended description on MyHeritage. Another thing that you'll notice in the 1906 census of France, when you get a chance to look at it, is there are some privacy rules that we're abiding by for the policies and laws in France. And so persons who are born after 1900, anyone born in 1901 or forward, they're going to be redacted with this gray strikeout bar. So as years progress, we'll be able to unredact these records and include those names in the index, and then also unredact these images. So when you see that bar, just know that this is going to be a very young child in the 1906 census. In fact, someone between the ages of 0 and 5, I think by definition. All right, so how do you learn more about these excellent resources? One of the best places to go is the MyHeritage blog. I give you the URL there. This is a great resource for all things about MyHeritage. It is updated all the time. We have a wonderful team, as well as a huge cadre of contractors that contribute to that blog. So I definitely refer you to that. And with that, I'm gonna see if we have some questions. Daniel.
Thank you very much, Mike. And as people here know, I try to keep this short and sweet, but also hands-on. And I just wanted to direct everybody to the search page on MyHeritage, right when you click research, because all the French collections that we have just released and you were talking about are right here in the lower part of the search engine where it says recently added collection. And I actually opened one of them, the 1872 census, Mike, that you were talking about. And I wanted also to show the description with the list that you were also mentioned. So this is the page, the exclusive page for this census, and this is the arrow that Mike was referring, and prepare for this because I already clicked that arrow and then I totally lost it. When you click here, you will have, boom, all the areas, the official geographical codes and names of how many you said they are? 95 districts or areas.
Yeah, 96 in metropolitan France, and 1872, I think there's 67 are included, right?
Oh, so I definitely am not gonna go there. But yeah, you can just see, look, and the different areas. Now, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but I could copy from here, let's say, var, okay, which is probably the most easy one to say here. And I can use that as a place in order to do my search, right? And then all the results are going to be focused on that area if I know that my family is from there.
Correct. And remember, so there's both residence places. That's the main thing that the census is collecting or tracking. And then we also have birthplaces. So yeah, you can use it in either place box. Yeah, so this would find records ranked mostly for, most highly ranked for that one department.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, and I also know that after those highly ranked, we will show you results from other areas because you may think that your family was there at that time, but they probably moved. So I have to admit, I envy everybody that has French genealogy. I'm researching Romania and Ukraine, and the records that I have seen here in the French collection is incredible. Now, while I go through a few announcements, as always, I will invite everybody to prepare your questions, and I will allow you to unmute your microphones in just 1 second. First of all, a reminder that last week we updated our theory of family relativity. So you are more than welcome to revisit your DNA matches results and find over there new theories, or probably some that have disappeared because we detected that they were not good, or multiple other reasons. But for sure, now at least 50% more theories are there for you. The new French collections, you already heard everything about that. And if you want to keep improving your genealogy skills and your knowledge about MyHeritage, I invite you to visit education.myheritage.com. And as always, I am posting the URLs on the chat, so it will be very easy for you just to copy and paste. And here you have, besides downloadable resources and articles, some videos and webinars that talk about everything related to MyHeritage and genealogy in general. And if you are into webinars and if you are into French records, you definitely need to visit the family tree webinars from Legacy. Mike was there just 24 hours ago, no, 48 hours ago. That was, yeah, we lost track of time in this company. Mike was there. Mike gave a wonderful webinar, not according to me, but according some of the comments that I have been reading in the chat already, and included a more in detail part for this French collection. So they are totally free. Go ahead and enjoy them right away. And the invitation, as always, every Thursday, 1 p.m. New York time, no matter where you are. Mike, what time is over there in Utah?
It started at 11 a.m.
11.
So
for me is 8 p.m., but no matter what is 1 p.m. New York time, when and where we talk a little bit about what's new on MyHeritage, and then it's time to allow participants to unmute. And you know what they say, right? Just because I'm here, I have the first right to ask questions while you start raising your hand. Mike, you talked about privacy laws. Do you know when will be the next census release in France?
yeah, it's a good question. We have a pretty long roadmap with our new colleagues in Filae, who are based in France. Dan, I'm sorry, you're asking about what additional censuses we'll be working on?
When is going to be released the next census? I know that in the US is 72 years, for example. It's interesting, very interesting, that you're saying that privacy is applied even to the 1936 census that was already released but limited. So if then the 36, they did it every 5 years, the next one will be 41. Did they did a census in 41?
They didn't. They were again involved
because of the war.
In a war,
okay,
yeah.
so we will need to then wait for a good couple of years until the next census is released.
So to answer your question is, well, just like we saw in the 1906 census, and you would see in the 1911 that's going to be forthcoming, is we're able to release records if we have a great deal of confidence that we know that the person is at least 120 years old. So technically, we could release the 1936 census, which, this is what's funny, many of those images are available digitally at many of these French archives. They have not been indexed. And so when you go and create the index and make a database, the law seems to have a different understanding that you need to protect the privacy of those individuals. That I can go see on the image,
but you cannot read it, the index.
Right. And so that's part of what we're trying to work through is how much of that do we want to do and deal with the redactions and then releasing those records as we go forward.
Well, and everybody knows, no matter what, yeah, we want to stick what the law says. Mike, I'm going to put you in the spot one more time. If anybody knows, should be you. How many more records are waiting from Filae to come to MyHeritage?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. So there's another large collection of vital records indexes that were licensed from different organizations within France. And we're working with these organizations in France to make sure that we have the proper permissions and agreements in place so that we can put those on MyHeritage. So definitely keep your eyes on the website for additional vital records. There's also a very large collection of French trees. And that's going to be one of the most exciting collections coming up as well, is a large collection of trees. Again, we're working with the Filae user community to make sure that they have the option to tell us if they don't want their tree published onto MyHeritage or not.
To opt out.
So that'll probably be into early next year, I would imagine, before we were able to to get that one done.
No.
They have some other records as well from other European countries that we're also working through some licensing issues with, but we hope to bring those to MyHeritage soon as well.
Now, something you didn't mention, but I know just because we work here, is that also very soon record matches are going to be hit with these French records. So even if you don't search or you don't know or don't imagine even that you have a relative over there, MyHeritage will find it and will push it to you through the record matches. So yep, all you need to do is just sit down, relax, and wait for that to appear. Enough about me. I don't see any hands. What's happening? Oh, Marlene, hi, yes.
Yes,
Now I see
hi.
you.
Yes,
Bert, I'm going with you next. Yes, Marlene, what is your question?
okay. I have not been able to find anything on ancestors from Branovich in Belarus or Russia. And I'm wondering if I would do MyHeritage DNA test, would that help me in researching these ancestors?
Well, you can see some of the faces here. People are doing like this, like crazy. And I have to admit, yes, we cannot guarantee you that you will find those ancestors. But yes, a DNA test would for sure help you, but you will need to do a little bit of homework after you receive the results, because you will need to go to your best matches. You will need to find out if they're coming from your father or mother or the exact branch that you're looking. You will need to interact with the other users. Hopefully they have a good family tree that you can share and evaluate. And yeah, I mean, yeah, it is helpful. It's just an issue of a little bit of luck and a lot of work.
Is the MyHeritage test one of the better ones or more complete?
You realize that this is a MyHeritage Zoom.
I know.
And this is sponsored by like, what do you want me to say? No, no, of course not. I want to keep my job. Come on.
Okay.
But yes,
right.
yes, it is one of the best out there. Okay, thank you. Bert, you had a question. No, you need to unmute first. Okay, now yes. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. I had a question about Filae, because we used to need a subscription for Filae in order to find whatever. Has this changed since they've been taken over by MyHeritage?
Excellent question, Bert, and I'm going to risk to answer it myself, and Mike will correct me if I'm wrong. Nothing is changing and nothing is going to change. We bought Filae to keep it and to strengthen it into what the best Filae that can be. Same as we did with Genie a few years ago, is going to keep being a subscription-based website. You will need to have a subscription there if you want to use it there. Same as you will need to have a subscription to MyHeritage if you would like to search the records on MyHeritage. It's just where, depending where you will feel more comfortable to do it. Right, Mike?
Yeah, exactly. And depending on what your research needs, like if you have French and English ancestry, then obviously we have a lot of English records on MyHeritage that you'll want to use as well.
Now, don't ask me, Bert, don't ask me how much is here and there and which one is best to have. I have no idea about that.
But you just said it was free, or Mike did.
Wait. What is free? If it's free, I want it.
All these collections.
No. The collections are not free. We may make it free at some point. The reason or the way I know they're not free is because they don't have a free icon right here. but who knows? Maybe in the next Bastille Day, and I'm just throwing that to our marketing team, we may make all the French records for free for a couple of days.
So the other thing I would add, Daniel, is the blog post does talk about how searching is free. There's a way to search the records as just a registered user and see some of the information. It can be helpful in helping you know if you're going to have success if you were to decide to go ahead and subscribe. So
yeah,
so there's kind of a little bit of a free way to do this, but you'll certainly need a subscription to get
to actually see the record. Yes, and that is true also for all the records on MyHeritage.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, pleasure. Hi, Sandy. How are you? No, you need to unmute.
There we go. Mike, I was wondering, since now you have, France has relaxed a little bit their privacy requirements so that you can put these on MyHeritage, what is the status for DNA? And if it's still difficult, what's the reason for that?
You know, that's a great question. I know we've been struggling with this for a few years. Daniel may have more information than I do, but for the rest of the audience, yeah, there was, in the last few years, there was actually a sort of policy that we were watching where we weren't even selling DNA kits into France. Daniel, do you know, has this changed yet?
Yes, I do know that we are selling DNA kits in France. The law is kind of gray. It doesn't say exactly that you cannot sell or you cannot have it, or like, I don't know the law, but I do know that we are walking on a very thin line in France with the DNA, and so far people are still buying there. So yep, no changes in the law or our policies over there.
Yeah, definitely take a look at your DNA matches. I actually have a few matches of some
From
second
France.
cousins in France. Yeah. So,
and even from other countries where we don't sell DNA, yeah, people find ways to do things. Okay,
take them in their luggage.
I promised Mike for 30 minutes, and I'm already 2 minutes up. Alisa, you're the last one of today. No, you need to unmute to ask your question. No, Alisa, you are still muted.
Okay, I just wanted to share a few things about genealogy. This week were so many webinars from Legacy, mostly also, about family search and about other things. And also IGRA. I had a wonderful talk about immigration to Israel or Palestine, even from the early 1900s. That was very interesting. And then in Jewish Gen, I got I saw an email. Somebody asked about the Palestinian Mufti in Jerusalem.
There are many places out there. There are many conferences also going virtual and allowing to do webinars and recordings. So yeah, definitely it is something that you should take into account, and that just gives you more homework for this coming week. In the meantime, and as always, please take very good care of yourself and your family. Take this extra time that we have to do a little bit more of genealogy, and looking forward to see you next week. Today, it will say au revoir, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.